Sometimes there's always a lesson in these situations. You know what I always said to people that you should watch cartoons? It's not for your children that you have, nor is for the fact that it is for you to reminisce over your childhood. No, I'm always saying to people to watch cartoons because there is always a lesson in those shows. If those lessons are true, though, that depends on the person that you are trying to prove this point to. And also is the fact that when I said about your children, of the fact that you do not have to forget that sometimes your children will take after your bad behavior, so sort. And while that is true, I mean, I have always loved cartoons, but I do think a little bit that they are one of the reasons why I actually started to become very negative. Mostly because I think I picked up of the feeling that when bad things happen to you, it's because you talk positive, so you have to say negative things so bad things won't happen. But we're not here to listen to my life story, nor are we here for me to lecture you about something. No, this is Amphibia, episode 2 review, as Anne is getting here. But what I'm trying to say is that this is an episode of learning, is that two of these episodes, or this episode in these two parts, both have similar message. Something like, be honest. First episode is, of course, Anne and Polly and Skips having their different things. But then Anne unintentionally breaks a cane, which turns out to be Hop Hop's favorite cane. Or at least a cane that is passed down from his gram, Hop Hop, and blah 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 blah, you know all that stuff. As Anne and the two children toads try to actually find a way to, replace it or fix it. They even go to an old man who is actually not a frog per se. He's how do you pronounce that? Axolotl? Is that how you pronounce that? Well, either way, actually showing that it's not just frogs in this village. We may actually very well see toads too. Now when I think about it, wouldn't it be ironic if it turns out that villain, that by the way, I actually forgot to say about that in last week's episode. No, not last week's. Last episode, in episode 1, we actually got a stinger of Anne's friend being caught. That frog over there is actually voiced by Troy Baker, the man who was once the face of all anime, or one of anime, and now he no longer will ever voice that again. Not even in some video games. Unforgivable if you ask me, but then again I do not know how the union works, so hey, he's an awesome voice actor, isn't he? But my point is, what if that frog is not a frog but a toad? Wouldn't it be a bit ironic if Amphibia actually has a rivalry between the frogs and the toads? Granted, that may not happen, but you get my point. Either way, they try to do that. They even had an adventure by facing off against a giant gross bug. I have to say the monsters or the animals in this universe are actually very well drawn and very well reflected. It reflects the fact that yes, these frogs, they do eat insects, but there are some bugs and insects that are actually bigger than them that can eat them. And this creature, he reminds me a lot of a walking stick bug. Of course, just a whole lot more grosser, which is saying something. In the end, Anne confesses that she breaks the cane, but Hop do not kicks her out because he's not that heartless. But he is a bit furious about breaking the cane. But Anne has actually learned from a lesson not to be so reckless in this episode and listening to his authority. So this episode shows that you have to be honest with yourself, and also do not think that you can only solve everything just like that. You have to talk and understand. The next episode of it all goes a little bit more deeper into Sprig and Anne's friendship. As it turns out, they become so good friends that they even have their own hand signals and all that stuff. But then Anne's basement place gets flooded. Apparently, this seems to be a recurring theme in this house. Actually, when I think about it, I have no idea how poor or wealthy the Sprig family really is. Granted that Sprig doesn't seem to have any friends his own age, it's very likely that this is a very, very, very poor family. In fact, we haven't even dived into where is Sprig's and Polly's father and mother. Will we dive into that in a future episode, perhaps? Either way, so Sprig volunteers for Anne to be in his bedroom until this plug and leak is fixed. Of course, the two roommates gets on each other's nerves, mostly because, well, Anne talks in her sleep or talks different things, and the Sprig has a bad habit of flipping out his tongue. Eventually, it escalates so badly that the two of them in separate times, although actually in the same time too, tries to fix the leaks, and it turns out that the leak is not just a leak, but a monstrous looking water bug is in there, and they work together to get out of it. In the end, the leak gets fixed, although it does get flooded again, but Hop Hop does prove a lesson that yes, they were getting on each other's nerves because they had a little bit different things they dealt with when it came to the night, but they were also became closer than ever. For in his lesson of it all is that you have to be honest with yourself again. You have to talk with your problems, not try to evade them because you are afraid of friendship being ruined. And also is the fact that it shows that, yes, friendships will always have ups and downs. That's the problem with friendship. And by the way, you shouldn't underestimate friendship. Yes, I am talking about that series, because friendship is actually one of the most sacred things you have. And in fact, even this Amphibia goes deep into it. There's so very strong suggestions that Anne's friends are not friends at all. So, you shouldn't really mess it up. But Hop Hop does prove in the fact that you have to talk with each other. And when in the end they work together to solve one problem. So in the end I like these two episodes, but which one did I like more? Well, that's a good question. They weren't bad, they were definitely not bad, but I think that given these two the same sound of review is the lesson of it all, and I'll see what more takes to the fact. But yeah, the monsters in Amphibia, I have to give special praise to that now, this time. Was there anything else to say about it? Well, I forgot who the Axtol was voiced by. But you give me your thoughts if you have any.